Am I the asshole for feeling betrayed even though my husband treats me well and says he still wants our family together? Hi everyone. I, 32, female, have been married to my husband, 38, male, for 12 years. We met when I was doing my internship at his company while I was still in college. We got married before I even graduated. We have 2 sons, 7 and 5. My husband owns a construction and architecture firm, and we work together. Until recently, I thought we had a happy marriage. But a few weeks ago, I accidentally found out that my husband is still in love with his ex-girlfriend. I overheard it completely by chance. I was supposed to stay home that day, but I decided last minute to go to the office. When I arrived, he was talking with one of his close friends. His ex had apparently left her husband and was struggling financially. She had reached out to my husband for help finding a place to live, and he was helping her. Then I heard him say, "My heart still races when I'm around her." I froze. It felt like the air left my lungs. I started crying uncontrollably. Some of our employees saw me, sat me down, and gave me water. Then my husband came. Later, when I confronted him, he said that when his ex got married, he decided it was time for him to settle down too, and that I was a good match for him at that time. He said our lifestyles, values, and families aligned well. He told me he truly values me and never wanted to hurt me. He said, "I couldn't marry the woman I loved, but you did marry the man you love. I didn't want you to go through the same pain, so I worked hard to make sure you were happy." He also said, "Marriage requires work, but you never had to work for it because I worked to give you a perfect marriage." To be fair, we've never had any major issues. Our families get along extremely well. We even live really close, which makes childcare easy. We often travel together while our parents look after the kids. But hearing that he's still in love with someone else broke something inside me. He told me, "You're the most important person in my life. I don't want to break our family apart. I want our kids to grow up happy." Then he said, "I know you'd never leave the kids. If you ever wanted to remarry, you'd want someone who treats you and them well. So why can't that person be me? I'm completely lost. Should I stay in this marriage? Can I ever truly forgive this? Am I the asshole for taking my niece on vacation after her parents planned one without her?" So I, 36, female, live in Portland, and I'm very close to my older brother Mark, 42, male, and his wife, Laura, 39, female. They have 4 sons, ages 17, 15, 13, and 12, and 1 daughter, Lily, who's 10. Lily is the youngest, the only girl in the family, and the youngest cousin among all of us. She's kind, imaginative, and a little shy, but she's also been through a lot. She was born with a congenital heart defect and spent most of her early years in and out of hospitals. Because of that, everyone in the family, my parents, me, our cousins, tends to spoil her a bit. Everyone except her parents, who seem determined to toughen her up. When Lily turned 10 last spring, she told her mom she wanted to go on a little weekend trip. Just her and her mom. Maybe a cabin in the woods, a beach stay, anything small and cozy. She just wanted some mom time without the chaos of 4 older brothers. Laura didn't take it well. She told Lily she was being selfish and that family trips are for everyone. Then, to make things worse, they didn't plan anything for her birthday at all. So I stepped in. I told her I'd take her on her own little adventure. We spent a weekend in Seattle visiting the aquarium, going to Pike Place, and eating the biggest ice cream sundae you've ever seen. It wasn't extravagant, but she was so happy. Fast forward to this past summer. One of the boys, I think it was Ethan, who just turned 15, decided that for his birthday, he wanted to go to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. But get this, he specifically said he didn't want Lily to come. His reason? She got her own trip without us, so now it's our turn. And unbelievably, Mark and Laura agreed. They said it was only fair. They called me and asked if I could watch Lily for 10 days while they were gone. When Lily found out, she was devastated. She cried for 2 days straight. She couldn't understand why her family would go on vacation without her, especially after how much she loves her brothers. My heart broke for her. I happened to have some work scheduled in Florida and New York around the same time, so I got an idea. I told Mark and Laura that I'd need to travel for work during that week and could take Lily along if they were okay with it. They said yes, mostly because they had no other childcare options and didn't want to cancel their trip. So I planned something special. It was technically a work trip, but I made sure Lily had the time of her life. We spent 5 days in Miami, swimming at the beach, collecting seashells, eating fresh fruit smoothies every morning. Then we drove up to Orlando, spent a full day at Disney World, her dream come true, then caught a flight to New York for 2 days. She saw The Lion King and Wicked on Broadway. We got room service for the first time in her life. And by pure luck, our tickets got upgraded, so we flew first class on the way home. When she saw the little hot towels and the fancy snacks, her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. She told me it was the best week ever. But when her parents got home and found out how much fun she had, they lost it. They accused me of undermining their authority, of rewarding bad behavior, and even told extended family that I took their child across the country without permission, which isn't true, because I explicitly told them I'd be traveling and they agreed. Now, they barely let me see Lily outside of my after-school babysitting hours. It's tense every time we talk. Some of my friends say I crossed a line and should have respected the parents' boundaries. Others say what her parents did, leaving her out of a family vacation, was cruel, and I just gave her some joy when she needed it most. So am I the asshole for taking my niece on that trip when her own parents excluded her? Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend to get her shit together? I, 19, male, live with my girlfriend, 19, female. We moved in together partly because it's cheaper and partly because I wanted to see if she's someone I could build a future with. Lately, we've been fighting a lot. She goes out almost every weekend with her friends recently and comes home late, then spends the next day in bed until noon. I don't necessarily have a problem with the first part, but I do have a problem when she leaves messes everywhere. Doesn't help with cleaning, barely talks about what she does when she's out, and just scrolls on TikTok or watches Netflix. 6 weeks ago, I told her my parents were coming to visit and really wanted to meet her. She said she was excited and couldn't wait. The day comes, I cook dinner, my parents are on their way, and she is already out shopping with her friends. An hour before my parents arrive, I text her asking where she is. She says she's going to hang out with them longer because one of her friends got a promotion at her job, and they're going to celebrate. I was pissed but didn't want to ruin the dinner, so when my parents arrived, I told them she got called into work. They said they understood, and the dinner went well. She eventually came home. She said hello, and I quickly said, "You must be tired from work," and steered her to the bedroom before my parents noticed anything because she was high. The next morning, I made breakfast, and I told her how disrespected I felt, that she bailed on the meeting with my parents to celebrate her friend's job promotion, even though she goes out with them constantly. She insisted she didn't blow me off. It escalated. I told her she needs to get her shit together because she doesn't help with the apartment except paying her share. She called me insecure. I said things I regret. She said things she regrets. The only difference is that she won't apologize. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for not letting a kid eat my food? The other day, I was at the mall with my boyfriend and our 2 kids, female, 5, and male, 6. We were sitting eating a bag of roasted chestnuts when this kid, around 10 years old, starts hovering around us. Now, I admit I'm not the biggest fan of any kid that doesn't belong to me. So this alone was already annoying me slightly. But I still smiled to him. Then he calls my son over and whispers in his ear. And I knew it was about the chestnuts. My son nods yes, and the boy comes up to me and reaches for a chestnut. I moved back and said, "No, you have to go ask your parents." My boyfriend got upset, called me rude, and handed a chestnut to the boy. The boy leaves, and I tell my boyfriend he shouldn't have done that you don't just give food to a strange kid. The boy then hovers back around us and without a word snatches 2 chestnuts from the bag that my boyfriend was now holding. I stand up and said very firmly, "Sorry, but you can't take our stuff like that. Go to your parents." He put them back and ran off. I think the kid had no education manners, and I wasn't going to let my kids think it's okay to accept anything from strangers, or that it's okay to be pressured into sharing. My boyfriend doesn't agree and thinks the kid trusted us because we had kids ourselves. He thinks I was just selfish. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for yelling at my boyfriend because he woke me up? So, for context, 39, female, live with my boyfriend, Ryan, 43 male, in a small apartment in Denver. We've been dating for about 2 years and moved in together last fall. I love him. He's funny, thoughtful, and genuinely kind. But lately, his morning routine has been driving me absolutely insane. Ryan works in construction management, so he gets up super early, around 5:30 a.m. I, on the other hand, don't start work until 8, so I usually wake up around 7 a.m. Most mornings, he's respectful about it. He'll quietly get out of bed, grab his clothes, maybe turn on the bathroom light for a second, and head out to the kitchen. No problem. But this morning? This morning was something else. At 5:30 a.m., the overhead light flips on. Not the bedside lamp, not a dim light, but the full-blast, interrogation-level ceiling light. I groaned, rolled over, and tried to pretend I was dead. He walked in and out a couple of times, making noise in the kitchen, which I could live with. But then he comes back in with a cup of coffee and asks me to move over so he can relax in bed for a few minutes before leaving. Half asleep, I scooted over because my brain hadn't caught up yet. But about 2 minutes later, I realized what was happening. The lights were still on. He was scrolling TikTok with the sound barely muted, sipping coffee loudly and doing that annoying ankle-shaking thing that made the whole bed vibrate like a washing machine on spin cycle. At that point, I was wide awake. I told him, "Ryan, can you please not do this? I still have another hour and a half before I have to get up." He got defensive immediately. He said, "What, I can't even sit next to you and have my coffee?" "You're being so grumpy," that's when I kind of snapped. I told him it was inconsiderate to turn the lights on, make noise, and expect me to just be okay with it when I was trying to sleep. He rolled his eyes and said, "Wow, okay. Well, your bad attitude just ruined my morning." Thanks for that. I was so frustrated I ended up getting out of bed, grabbing my keys, and going to a nearby coffee shop just to calm down. When I told my mom later, she said I wasn't the asshole. That most people who wake up earlier than their partners try to be quiet and considerate. But she also said maybe he just wanted to spend a little extra time with me before work, which is kind of sweet. If he hadn't completely woken me up in the process. Now he's sulking and says I overreacted and that normal couples enjoy mornings together. So am I the asshole for snapping at my boyfriend for turning on the lights, drinking coffee in bed, and keeping me awake before my alarm? Am I the asshole for keeping my distance after my husband decided to move out? My husband, 32, and I, 31, have been married for 2 years and together for 6. We had a wonderful wedding surrounded by close family and friends, and we're planning to save money to buy a house and build our future together. Lately, though, he had been ignoring my concerns about finding a new place and just seemed distant. Then, out of nowhere, he went on a trip with his kid to another state without really telling me in advance. When he came home, he told me that things weren't working out and that we should separate. I told him, "Okay, if that's how you feel." Because I'm not going to beg someone to stay in a marriage. If that was his decision, then fine. He moved out and started living in a hotel, but he was constantly calling me every day. I was heartbroken and grieving, so I told him to come back, that we could work on things and try therapy together. But he refused. He said we could do therapy, but he wanted to keep living separately. I didn't agree with that because it felt like he wanted to have his cake and eat it too. It's been about 2 months since all this happened, and I haven't spoken to him in about 2 weeks. The last time he called was before my birthday, asking if I was free. I told him no, that I wasn't happy with how things turned out and that he needed to leave me alone since he was the one who decided to move out and wanted space. I think he didn't expect me to be so nonchalant about it, but I've told him before. I don't play mind games. We don't have kids or any major shared assets, just a storage unit. I told my parents I was moving on since he's the one who wanted space and has chosen to ignore me. And even his mother hasn't reached out once. My parents suggested that maybe I should go look for him, but honestly, I don't want to. He made the decision to leave me and throw everything away after everything I did for him. So, am I the asshole for actually respecting his decision and keeping my space? Am I the asshole for telling my fiance mom I won't wear her wedding dress? My fiance mom, 60s, offered me her old wedding dress. It's vintage and beautiful, but very not my style. Puffy sleeves, lace everywhere, just not me. I thanked her and said I appreciated it, but I already had a design in mind for something modern. She immediately got offended and said I was rejecting family tradition. Now she keeps bringing it up to my fiancé and even told him she's not trying to be part of the family. I told her respectfully that I can love and respect her without wearing her dress. My fiancé agrees but thinks I could have been gentler. Now it's awkward every time I see her. Am I the asshole for refusing to wear it? Am I the asshole 27, male for standing up for my fiancé 27, female in our relationship by refusing to go on a family trip that excludes her? I'm a 27 male, and I've been with my fiancé. We've been living together for 3 years and we're getting married next June. My mom, 59, female, wants to plan a cruise with just her. My dad, 59, male. My brother, 23, male, and my sister, 21, female, and exclude my fiancé. I feel like this is a bit ridiculous, given how long we've been together and how integrated she is into our family. My mom framed this trip as a one last family vacation before I get married. But to be honest, I feel like that ship sailed a while ago. I've long since moved out of my childhood family home and started my own life with my fiancé. The dynamics have shifted, and I feel like this trip should have been planned before I moved out, not after I've already started my own family unit with my partner. It feels like my mom is trying to recreate a past dynamic that no longer exists, and I'm not comfortable with that. I also feel I'm more a family unit with my fiancé at this stage of the game than my parents and siblings. When I mentioned this trip to my fiancé, she was understandably hurt and felt like my mom was putting me in a position to choose between them. I agree with her. My fiancé is my main priority now, and I don't want to start our marriage off on the wrong foot by prioritizing my mom's wishes over hers. When I talked to my mom about it, she got highly defensive and said, "Oh, I forgot that when a son gets married, he is expected to pretty much abandon his family of origin and center his life around his fiancée/wife and what she wants." She also said, "God forbid a man considers his own mom's feelings or that of his birth family for even 2 seconds once he's in a serious relationship. He's accused of being disloyal." Then she asked if this is my fiancé's influence, which I found highly insulting, implying that I'm not thinking for myself or that we're not a team. What really got under my skin was when she said, "I feel like if the genders were reversed and this was a mom asking this of her daughter, it wouldn't be framed as a betrayal to her fiancé if she went." I feel like this is a pretty sexist comment, and it implies that I'm supposed to be less of a partner or less committed to my fiancé just because I'm a man. What's even more surprising to me is how defensive my mom got about this. I would have thought she'd be more concerned about my fiancé's feelings, given how close I thought we all were. Instead, it feels like she's prioritizing her own desires over my fiancé's feelings, and that's not sitting well with me. I could be the asshole for telling my mom I'm not attending any family functions, vacations, where my fiancé isn't invited, and this could make me the asshole because I'm not respecting my mom's wishes. Am I the asshole for telling my husband to cut contact with his half-sister after she threatened me in our marriage? Hi, I, 34 female, have been married to my husband, 37 male, for almost 8 years. We have a 6-year-old son together, and for the most part, our relationship has been stable. Ups and downs like any marriage, but nothing outrageous. My husband has a half-sister, Amanda, 40, female, who lives in another state. They share the same dad, but have different moms. I'd only ever met her once over FaceTime, and she seemed fine. A bit intense, but friendly. In the beginning, she would occasionally message me nice things like, "You're such a great mom," or, "I'm so happy my brother found someone good." She even once offered to babysit if we ever wanted to take a trip, which was funny because she lives almost 500 miles away. But I appreciated the gesture and thought she genuinely meant well. My husband had told me before that Amanda has a history of going no contact with people out of the blue, including her other half-siblings. Apparently, she's cut off 2 of them for years at a time for reasons no one fully understands. I should have taken that as a red flag. Anyway, About a year ago, my husband and I were going through a rough patch. Stress from work, parenting burnout, poor communication, the usual cocktail of mid-marriage tension. Around the same time, I had to travel out of state for a work conference. On my last day there, my coworkers and I went sightseeing. I posted a few harmless Instagram stories, pictures of food, a sunset, and the city skyline. That same night, I got a message from Amanda. It said, "Don't be fooling around and betray my brother." I remember staring at my phone like, what the actual hell? I had barely ever spoken to this woman beyond polite small talk. I replied something neutral like, "Excuse me?" But she didn't respond. When I got home, I showed my husband the message, expecting him to be as shocked as I was. Instead, he looked awkward and admitted that he had vented to Amanda about our marriage problems, behind my back. Apparently, he'd told her that we'd been arguing more lately and that I'd been distant. He swore he hadn't said anything bad, just that he needed someone to talk to. I told him I was uncomfortable that he shared private details with someone who doesn't even know me. He said I was overreacting. Then things escalated fast. Within a few days, Amanda started blowing up my DMs with long, nasty paragraphs. She called me lazy, said I abandoned my child by traveling for work, told me I was selfish and that I don't deserve my husband. It went from rude to downright scary. One of her messages said, "I'm not scared to go to jail, bitch. I'll show up in your state." And another one, which honestly made my blood run cold, said, "If your marriage goes downhill, remember me. I do witchcraft, and I'll use it on your family." That was my final straw. I blocked her immediately and showed my husband everything. He barely reacted. He just kind of shrugged and said, "I don't know why she's acting like that." No anger, no outrage, no "how dare she threaten my wife." Nothing. After I pressed him, he reluctantly unfriended her on social media and blocked her number. But it felt performative, like he was doing it just to shut me up. Fast forward to now, almost a year later. Last week, Amanda texted him from a different number. The message said, "Hey, how have you been? How's the family? Are you and my name still together?" The moment I saw that, my stomach dropped. Why does she care whether we're still together unless she's trying to stir up drama again? My husband didn't reply, but he didn't block her either. I told him I wanted him to cut contact completely. No more texts, no social media, no "maybe she'll change." She threatened me, insulted me, and tried to involve herself in our marriage. I don't want someone like that anywhere near our lives. He didn't really respond when I said that. Just stayed quiet and changed the subject. Now I'm wondering if I'm being too harsh. He claims he barely talks to her anyway, but I think the lack of boundaries is the issue. I'm not asking him to choose between me and his family. I'm asking him to protect our peace and show basic respect for our marriage. So, am I the asshole for asking my husband to go completely no contact with his half-sister after she threatened me and tried to interfere in our marriage?
Am I the asshole for refusing to reconcile with my sister and her husband after they called me crazy during a medical and legal nightmare that nearly killed my partner and I? This year was the most brutal year of me and my partner's life. My partner and I discovered our rental was full of hidden black mold. She developed severe asthma from it, something she'd never had before, and passed out multiple times. We had to call ambulances, she passed out multiple times, and I even ended up in hospital myself from breathing issues and hypoxia. We managed to win $10,000 in tribunal against agents and landlord. At the same time, I was dealing with lawyers, inspectors, caretaking my partner, landlords who were covering it up while still working full-time. It was chaos, pure survival mode. I still haven't fully processed it. I was a pure caveman for 3 to 4 months in full fight mode. Now that we're both getting better, the whole saga feels unreal and like it never happened. I'm getting sleep paralysis every night, can't sleep, etc. Pretty sure I have PTSD symptoms, but besides the point. Instead of supporting me, my sister and her husband decided I'd lost it. They called me crazy and said I was making my girlfriend crazy too. They completely ignored the medical reports and photos. I got my own inspections done too because the LL paid his own inspectors to say there was no issue. My inspectors found all the black mold in the walls and ceiling. When I tried to explain how bad it really was, my sister dismissed it as overreacting, gaslit me, and then kicked me out of the family group chat. Her husband has a history of saying tone-deaf stuff, like sexual jokes at his own wedding and weird comments in general. He said to me at their wedding, "I'm gonna make you an uncle tonight, bro." When I called that out, my sister brushed it off with, "He's just joking, and drunk, don't take it so seriously." That's kind of her whole thing. Dismissive, excuse-filled, never accountable, never been very close with her. Now she's blaming her behavior on baby stress and sleep deprivation. During the worst months when my partner was collapsing and I was barely functioning, not one of them checked in. No visits, no messages, nothing, just judgment and gossip. That was the moment I snapped. I blocked them both and went no contact, said what I really thought of them, and they twisted my words claiming I threatened my brother-in-law. It's been about 6 months. My partner and I have finally moved out, detoxed, and started feeling like ourselves again. Now my mom and grandma, who just flew in from overseas, keep pushing the "you need to fix this" angle. They say things like, "If you love us, you'll do it." "His family doesn't like you." "You're missing out on seeing your niece grow up." When I told them I wasn't the one who did anything wrong, my mom cried and said I've changed. But honestly, I don't feel like I've changed. I just stopped accepting emotional manipulation. I love my niece, but I'm not going to be guilted into forgiving people who abandoned and ridiculed me while my partner and I were fighting to breathe. I'm in my late 20s. My parents didn't believe me either at the time because of my sister's gossip. I'm the youngest too, so it's always been like that. The first real time I said no to all of them, and this is how I'm getting treated. So, am I the asshole for refusing to make peace with my sister and her husband when I was the one disrespected, gaslit, and left alone during a medical crisis? Am I the asshole for asking my friend's boyfriend to pay $150 after he had an accident on my couch? On Halloween, my boyfriend and I went out to a bar with friends, including my friend Jake and his boyfriend Dylan. We were all drunk and went back to my place at 1 a.m. to hang out since everyone's cars were there from the pregame. At some point, Dylan fell asleep on the couch. While we were talking, another friend suddenly told us Dylan was having an accident on himself. But it was too late, and it was soaked into my couch cushion. Jake didn't do anything, so another friend carried Dylan to the bathroom. My boyfriend had already gone to bed. When we came back, Dylan was gone. Somehow, while we were grabbing towels, he had gotten into our bed, still in his accident-soaked clothes, and laid down next to my sleeping boyfriend. He got accident all over the bed. We found him a few minutes later, woke my boyfriend up, and another friend moved Dylan back to the couch. Except he laid on the other side this time and got accident there too, as well as on the blanket he used. I told my boyfriend not to make a big scene because I figured Jake and Dylan would already be embarrassed. We threw our bedding in the wash and ended up sleeping on the floor. Jake and Dylan stayed the night and left around 8 a.m. without cleaning anything, offering to help or apologizing. When we woke up around 10 a.m., the smell was horrible. We texted and called them, no answer for hours. I finally bought a carpet upholstery cleaner for $150 and started cleaning the couch, mattress, and blankets. I texted Jake, "So I adore you and Dylan, but our couch smells like accident, so we have to clean it. It's gonna be $150. I'm going to request Dylan pay for it." My boyfriend told Dylan he should cover the cost, and when they eventually answered at 2 p.m., he said to request it from Jake on Venmo. 8 hours later, at 10 p.m. that night, Jake replied to my text from that morning, "Hey IDK, if it's fair for Dylan to pay $150. If he gives you half, would that be cool?" We could have used our own carpet cleaner. They never offered to bring one earlier, and by then, I was long done cleaning. I calmly explained that the expense wasn't optional. We had to clean their mess and that $150 was cheaper than professional cleaning or replacing the cushions. Jake responded, "Whatever, dude. If that's how y'all feel, take your money," and then Venmo'd me the full $150. I didn't reply. Today he texted, "I'll bring the sweats you let us borrow so we don't have to pay you for those as well. I'll leave them on your porch. We've been friends for almost 10 years, and I'm shocked by how petty and disrespectful he's been about this. Am I the asshole for asking for reimbursement?"
Am I the asshole for not inviting my best friend to my birthday trip? Female 30, and my best friend, female 33, have been close for years, but we live states apart. Because of this, we don't see each other often, but we'll fly out to visit when we can afford to. This year, I wasn't able to celebrate my birthday on the actual day, so my boyfriend planned and paid for a trip for just the two of us to go to a few theme parks in October. I mentioned this offhand to my bestie, and she got really excited. She said to let her know when we would be going, and she would join us in the park for the day. She lives a few hours away from the parks. I didn't say anything, because in the moment I was taken aback that she pretty much just invited herself. She and I had talked about having a girls' trip and going to the parks together, just the two of us, so I figured we would go together another time. Nothing more was said about the trip between us. My boyfriend and I went on the trip, and here is where I'm worried I may have been the asshole. I decided not to tell her when we were going to the parks. My boyfriend and I were excited to spend time together, just the two of us, and neither of us wanted to add the plans or decisions of a third person into the mix. We only had one day to spend in each of the parks, so we didn't have a lot of free time. If we did, I would have reached out to her to have lunch or to meet up. After we got home from the trip, I posted about it on my social media and she saw it. She reached out to me and said that she wished I had told her that I was going, and that she was really sad. I responded that I'd always loved to see her, but we didn't have time, which is why I didn't reach out. I said we'd have our own girls' trip together in the future. She said that she understood and that it was okay, and she hoped we had fun. It's been a month and she's been ignoring me. I've been sending her things as usual, and she just leaves me on read. At first, I thought things may just be busy with her job, but now I'm certain she's upset and giving me the silent treatment. I reached out again recently and tried asking her if everything was okay, and she gave me a fairly curt response, which in turn has now pissed me off, because if she was upset, I would think she would just tell me so we could talk about it. But now I'm second-guessing myself and wondering if I'm the asshole in this situation, and she has every right to be upset.
Am I the asshole for refusing to financially support my parents and explaining why when my brother asked, 38 female, have been living in a different state from my family for over 10 years? I've supported myself the entire time and rarely asked anyone for help. I didn't grow up with my parents. My grandmother supported and raised me, and I never had a close relationship with them. Last year, I went on vacation with my siblings. During the trip, I found out that my youngest brother, 29M, who makes the most money out of all of them, has been paying the mortgage and most of our parents' living expenses. He asked me why I wasn't helping financially. Since he asked directly, I answered honestly. I told him that our parents didn't support me growing up, and that I still remember when my grandmother asked me to write them a letter requesting financial support for my education. My mom wrote back to my grandmother saying she should teach me not to ask them for money because what my dad earned was just enough for them and my 3 siblings. My grandmother let me read that letter, which I don't think my mom knows. I told my brother that I contributed financially when we immigrated and that I paid rent when I lived with them for 2 years. I also used whatever money I earned to help support my grandmother, who actually raised me, until she passed away. After I moved to a different state, I've been completely on my own with 0 financial help. Because of that history, I didn't feel responsible for supporting our parents now. Apparently, my brother told my mom. She confronted me via text and accused me of being disrespectful as a child. I explained my side and the experiences that shaped my feelings. She mentioned times she believes I was disrespectful, including verbal and physical conflicts. I explained that these incidents didn't happen in isolation and were often triggered by her actions. such as trying to persuade my grandmother to send me somewhere to dance for money, or deliberately ruining my school uniform by putting soy sauce on it. I told her she had not treated me like a mother should when I was growing up. The conversation didn't go well, and afterward, my mom stopped talking to me. Eventually, the rest of my family did too. Now I'm basically no contact with all of them. I feel like I told the truth and set a reasonable boundary, but somehow I'm the one who ended up alone. Am I the asshole for refusing to help financially and explaining my reasons when asked?
Am I wrong if I, female 24, want to spend the same amount of money on gifts for my sister, female 19? My sister, female 19, wants to gift each other holiday gifts. She showed me a pair of shoes that costs $110. I, female 24, asked her if she will buy me something also worth around $110, and she said no. I asked her what her spending limit is. She asked me why she needs to tell me a limit, and I said so that I know how much I will also spend on her. She was confused and wanted me to spend more on her than she spends on me. It's true I have a real job and she only has a cafe job, but she has a considerable amount saved up, $15,000 plus, as do I, and can definitely afford to spend the same amount. She told me she would like to only pay $50 for my gifts, and I said that's not fair, really. She told me that she doesn't want to fight and actually we should not swap gifts. Now she is upset with me. For background info, our parents are or were paying for both our colleges, so we have no debt, and we have spent no money of our own on college nor housing because they also house us. She has said she will have to pay for dental school by herself, which is why she is saving up. But I'm assuming not all of the paying will be by her, but also my parents will probably chip in. She and I are only kind of close, not the closest sisters in the world. She is not there when I need her to be, and I am always there when she needs me. She always says no when I need a favor or some help. She has stated herself that she always says no, and should really start saying yes, especially to simple, important stuff like bringing toilet paper if the paper is out and bringing medicine if the pain is too much to walk around. I have friends not very closer to me that are more dependable than she is, to be honest. They are also much nicer. I have spent a considerable amount on my friends and other family, for example, buying my best friend a $700 dog, giving my dad $5,000 for part of the roof repairs, and buying my cousin $200+ shoes for his birthday every year. I buy things for people when I see something that makes me think of them, because if they made me that happy, I want to give them something to show them how happy they made me, how kind they are, and how valuable of a friend, a family member they've been. I'd like to mention that she studied every day for 3 months and passed a hard exam called the DAT. I gave her $250 because I felt so happy for her, and she has different style than I do, so giving her money would be best so she can buy what she'd like. In contrast, other than my birthday, spent less than $100, I spent $200 for hers. She has bought me a $10 item for my fish. We have had this issue for a while now, ever since she started using her own money to buy gifts for me. I just don't know what to do anymore. I want to buy her stuff, but I also wanted to be treated in return. If not by being nice, then at least with gifts.
Am I the asshole for allowing my BF to cook at my apartment? My 22 female roommate, 23 female, is a hijabi. Because of this, whenever my boyfriend, 23 male, comes over, I make sure to tell her and we stay in my room 99% of the time. She has a lot of hair, so I assume tucking it into her hijab can be annoying, and I understand her wanting to not have to have it on all the time. I have a cyst on one of my ovaries, and it ended up being ruptured, and my ovary twisted, and there was other stuff because of that, and it was just a lot, and I was in a lot of pain, and my BF came over to help me out. I hadn't ate in a while and had vomited anything I did eat back up, and I didn't feel like getting up and cooking at all. So I texted my roommate and made sure she knew my BF would be in the kitchen, telling her that I was in a lot of pain and that my BF would be in the kitchen making me food because of that. He was making me tomato soup from a can and a grilled cheese, my stuff. So, not anything super messy or time consuming, and he washed all the dishes he used. And apparently, as he was, she came out and she seemed annoyed, grabbed some stuff from the kitchen, and gave my BF a nasty look. A couple of hours later, it got bad and we went to the ER, and I guess me and my BF took a little longer to leave the living room. I would say around 10-ish minutes because I wanted to make sure we grabbed everything and I wasn't really moving fast, and for a few minutes we stood in the living room reconsidering. After a really long night and surgery, I wake up and I see some text from her saying that she shouldn't have to put her hijab back on just to grab something from her own kitchen. I said I was really sorry, but I was just not feeling up to it and I would not have been able to stand up for that long, and then I explained what happened. She responded saying, "Girl, it's not that hard. Your BF doesn't need to be cooking in our kitchen and it doesn't take that long to leave the apartment." I told her I was sorry, and then she told me that it was super fucking annoying, and I told her I was really tired and to just leave me alone, and she told me I was being an inconsiderate bitch, and now I feel really bad, and I'm thinking I should apologize to keep the peace and for making her put on her hijab when I could have made myself food as not to inconvenience her.
Am I wrong for making my husband sleep on the couch so my ex could use our hotel bed during our anniversary? My husband emptied our joint account and sent the screenshots to his mother after I made him sleep on the hotel couch while my ex and I caught up during our anniversary trip. I'll just say it up front. I invited my ex to join us on what was supposed to be our 10-year anniversary vacation in Cancun. My husband, 41 male, and I, 38 female, had booked this resort months ago, and about 3 weeks before we left, I ran into my ex at the grocery store. We dated for 2 years back in college, broke up because he moved for work, and honestly, we just started texting again. Nothing physical, just talking about old times. He mentioned he'd always wanted to visit Mexico, and I thought, why not? We're all adults. My husband has nothing to worry about. So I told my ex he should book the same resort, same dates. I didn't tell my husband until we were at the airport because I knew he'd make a big deal out of it. His face when I told him. He just stared at me and said, "You invited your ex-boyfriend to our anniversary trip?" I explained that we were going to be mature about this, that my ex was staying in a different room, obviously, and that this was about rekindling an old friendship. Nothing more. The first 2 days were fine. My ex and I had breakfast together while my husband went to the gym. We'd lay by the pool and talk about college, remember funny stories, laugh about professors we hated. My husband would just sit there with his book, not talking, just watching us. I told him he was being childish and that if he wanted to participate in the conversation, he was welcome to. On the third night, my ex and I wanted to go to this beachside bar that had live music. I told my husband we were going, and he said, "I thought this was our anniversary trip." I said it was, but that didn't mean I couldn't spend time with an old friend. He asked if he could come, and I said honestly, it would be weird. This was more of a nostalgia thing, and he wouldn't get the inside jokes. He went back to the room. My ex and I stayed out until almost 2 a.m., drinking and dancing. When I got back, my husband was still awake. He asked where I'd been, and I said, "I told you, the beach bar." He said, "For 6 hours?" I said time flies when you're having fun, and that maybe if he wasn't so insecure, I would have wanted him there. Here's where it gets messy. The next day, my ex said his AC wasn't working and the hotel was fully booked, so they couldn't move him. I suggested he just sleep on our couch for the night until they fixed it. My husband said absolutely not. I said he was being ridiculous, it was just one night, and that I'd already told my ex it was fine. My husband grabbed his pillow and said, "Then I'll take the couch." I said, "Don't be dramatic," but he just lay down on that little couch and turned away from us. My ex and I stayed up talking in the bed. Nothing happened. We were fully clothed on top of the covers. About what our lives would have been like if we'd stayed together. Around midnight, my husband got up, took his stuff, and said he was going to sleep in the lobby. I told him he was embarrassing me. He left anyway. The last 3 days of the trip, my husband barely spoke to me. He'd go off by himself, eat alone, spend time at the gym, or walking on the beach. My ex and I had an amazing time. We went snorkeling, took a couples massage as friends, had romantic dinners. It felt like we were dating again, but in a totally platonic way. On the flight home, my husband still wasn't talking. I finally said, "You're really going to ruin our anniversary over this?" He said, "You already ruined it." I said that was unfair, that I'd tried to include him, and that honestly, the whole trip cost almost $4,000 and a real man wouldn't make his wife feel guilty for having friends. He looked at me and said, "You want to talk about the cost?" I said yes, actually, because I'd paid for my ex's dinners a few times since his card wasn't working, and my husband should be willing to cover that since it was our joint account anyway. He just laughed. Actually laughed. 2 weeks later was Thanksgiving at his parents' house. His whole family was there, his brothers, his sister, his grandmother, everyone. We're sitting down to eat, and his mom asks how our trip was. I start to answer, and my husband says, "Actually, I want to show everyone something." He pulls out his phone and starts passing it around. Hotel receipts showing I'd charged $1,200 in room service and bar tabs to our room while he was sleeping in the lobby. Restaurant bills for two showing I'd been paying for my ex's meals. And then, I don't know how he got these, but screenshots of my text messages to my ex before the trip. Messages where I'd said things like, "Can't wait to see you again. I've been thinking about what could have been." And, "My husband doesn't need to know you're coming until we're already there." And, "He'll get over it. He always does." His mother dropped her fork. His sister said, "Are you serious right now?" His grandmother, who's 89 and never swears, said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I tried to explain that those texts were taken out of context, that my ex and I were just friends, that nothing physical happened. My husband's brother said you made him sleep on a couch in his own hotel room on your anniversary so your ex could sleep in the bed with you. I said it wasn't like that. My husband finally spoke. He said, "I filed for divorce yesterday. I also moved half of what was in our joint account to a separate account in my name because I'm done paying for your boyfriend." Then he just stood up and walked out. His whole family started yelling at me. His mom called me disgusting. His sister said I was trash. I grabbed my purse and left, and now my own mother is saying I brought this on myself and that she's ashamed of me. My ex has stopped responding to my texts. My husband's lawyer sent papers to my work. I'm staying at my friend's apartment because my husband changed the locks on our house. His name is the only one on the deed. I know how this looks, but I genuinely didn't cheat. We never even kissed. I just wanted to reconnect with someone who knew me before I became a wife, before my life became about someone else's feelings all the time. My friends are split. Some say I crossed a line, others say my husband is being controlling. So I guess I'm asking, did I actually do something wrong here? Am I the asshole?
Am I wrong for putting everything on the table last night about how my wife has been treating me for a long time? I, 32 male, and my wife, 31 female, have been together since 2018, and we have a daughter together. Over the last couple of years, our relationship has completely changed. She's grown really distant and cold toward me. She rarely shows affection anymore. When I tell her I love her, she either doesn't respond or just says, "Okay." If I try to talk about how that hurts, she says I'm complaining about the same stuff, or acts like I'm starting a fight. I've kept trying to show her I care, bringing her coffee, cleaning, helping with the kids, doing whatever I can to make things easier. But nothing changes. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells around someone who doesn't even seem to like me anymore. Last night was the breaking point for me. There was a small misunderstanding about something I said when I brought coffee earlier in the day that set a bad tone, and the coldness just kept going. I told her that I didn't want her to be mad or upset and that the whole day had just felt off. She brushed it off, acting like I was imagining everything. That's when I finally said everything I'd been holding in. How her ignoring me, giving half-hearted affection, and shutting me out for so long has been tearing me apart. I told her that if I treated her the same way she treats me, it would hurt her too. She didn't say much, just stayed quiet and gave me a half-assed kiss goodnight. This morning, she basically said she's miserable and doesn't want to be together anymore. Now I'm sitting here wondering if I pushed too hard last night. I wasn't yelling or being mean, I just couldn't keep pretending everything was fine anymore. I still love her, but I feel completely empty. So, am I wrong for finally putting everything on the table and being honest about how her behavior has been making me feel for a long time? Edit. Just to clarify a few things since some people seemed confused, I don't consider cleaning the house or taking care of our daughter as helping her. I do those things because I'm an active father and partner. I just mention them to show that I don't sit around doing nothing. It's also not like I never tried to bring up how cold she was being. I did, multiple times. Every time I try to talk about it, she'd tell me it was all in my head and refuse to discuss it any further. It wasn't bad all the time. There would be stretches of months where things felt normal. No fights, no tension. And then suddenly something small, like putting forks in the wrong spot in the dishwasher, would set her off. Then I'd get yelled at or ignored for the rest of the day. Update. Not sure if this is how I do it. This morning I finally asked my wife if we were actually going to talk about everything that's been going on. She said me asking that isn't going to make a difference, and that this isn't something she just randomly decided. I asked if she'd been thinking about ending things for a while, and she said yes, that she's not happy. I told her I could tell she hasn't been happy, but every time I tried to talk to her about it, she'd get mad and say nothing was wrong. I even asked if there was someone else, and she said no. I ended up crying and told her that if she really doesn't want to be together, that's fine. But she doesn't have to treat me like the last 8 years meant nothing. She's been my best friend, my wife, and the mother of our kids. I told her I deserve more than silence and no eye contact. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know and already knew this was over with.
Am I wrong for refusing to bring anything for Thanksgiving? I'm the oldest of my 3 siblings. There's L, 27 female, A, 23 male, and T, 19 female. This year, the mother to my children passed away. While we were no longer in a romantic relationship, it was still a hard loss to take, and it left a strain on me and my daughters. Due to this, I was going to skip Thanksgiving altogether because it just sounded too stressful to corral 2 toddlers, cook something, and keep everyone happy on a 2-hour train ride to my mom's house. We live in a major city, and L and T live within walking distance of me, while A and my mom live in another state 2 hours away. After expressing my concerns to L and T, they were both super understanding and said that I wouldn't have to worry about bringing anything. They said they'd help with the girls, and Elle said she'd cook an extra dish to compensate for me so long as they could use my kitchen since I have more space. I was happy to accommodate. My mom and A heard about this and were upset. My mom said that she expected me to show up and also cook a meal. I responded that I was an adult and that I would not be attending if I was expected to bring something, as it was hard enough to get 2 young children on a train ride. My mother got angry and said that she managed with 4 children as a single mom when we were younger, and we never missed Thanksgiving. I then pointed out that when she did that, we were much older. Minus T, we were all teenagers who helped her with the cooking. This upset her further, and we reached a stalemate. I said that I'd only be showing up if I didn't have to bring something and I could instead help my sisters out. A later reached out to me and told me that I should suck it up and that I was being rude. While I don't think I'm in the wrong, I do feel bad and wonder if I'm being wrong. Edit. I wanted to give an update. Me and my sisters met up and talked. I found out that T was getting the same flack from my mom because she wanted to come to Thanksgiving later due to stuff with college. After discussing, we called her and stated that none of us would be showing up if more accommodations couldn't be made for our individual circumstances. She reluctantly agreed.
Am I wrong for what I said about the girl my brother's seeing? I went out for drinks and dinner with my brother. I'm 42 male, he's 34 male, who was in town for a few days. While we were catching up, he mentioned he'd met a girl at a bar, hooked up with her, and that they'd been texting for about a week getting to know each other. I told him that was great, wished him luck, said I'm here if he ever wants advice, and we moved on. Later in the night, after a few drinks, he randomly asked, out of curiosity, how young of a girl I'd ever date or hook up with. I thought it was kind of a weird question out of nowhere, but we were a little drunk, so I didn't think much of it. I said I hadn't really thought about it before, but I probably wouldn't date anyone more than 9 or 10 years younger than me. He pushed a bit and said something like, "Come on, so you wouldn't hook up with or date a 21-year-old if you had a ton in common and hit it off?" I kind of laughed and said, "Hell nah. What would I even have to talk about with someone still in college? 21 is like a kid to me." He got weirdly defensive after that. I tried to move on, but he kept pressing the point, and it started feeling tense. I finally said it wasn't that deep, and there's no reason to argue about it. Turns out, the girl he'd mentioned earlier was 21, which explains the question. He ended the night soon after saying he needed to get some sleep. I texted him the next morning and never got a reply. He went home without calling or texting again before he left town. I didn't mean to sound harsh or judgmental. If I'd known why he was asking, I probably would have handled it differently. But I also stand by what I said, because I was just being honest about my own perspective. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now I'm wondering if I should apologize again or just let it go. Part of me feels like if he got that defensive, it's because he already kind of knows deep down it's not a great look. But I don't want to ruin our relationship over something small either. It's really not that serious to me, but I'm at a loss about what to do. Am I wrong here?
I was so upset and almost tearful walking into the restaurant. My husband kept calming me down, saying it doesn't matter, and he doesn't care what she says. I told him she ruined our mood by being disrespectful. I'm not going to mask being happy, so she can have a fun night. We sit at the table and we were obviously in a bad mood, and H turns to my husband and says, "Are you guys okay?" And he says, "Yes, we're just tired and hungry." She noticed how I'm not engaging in the conversation at all, and she turns to my husband again and says, "If you guys don't want to be here, no one is forcing you. You can leave. We came here to have a good time." I turn to her and say, "What did you say to my husband?" She says, "I was telling him how if you guys don't want to be here, I don't want to force you, you can leave." And I say, "Personally, yes, I don't want to be here, and I will leave." My husband then says to the group, "Okay guys, we're heading out. Enjoy the rest of the dinner. It was a pleasure meeting you, boyfriend." And we walk out. My husband agrees with me that she was out of line, but he hates being in any kind of conflict and is stressed out about the situation. I feel like setting boundaries is very important, even if it means having to be in a fight or whatever. Was I the hero for instigating, walking out, and causing a rift between my husband and his sister and making her look bad in front of her boyfriend? Update! So around a week ago, I posted here about my 34 female husband's 32 male sister, H, 36 female. I wanted to get an outside perspective on her behaviour, and if I'm valid for walking out on a dinner where she was introducing her new boyfriend to us because she was being extremely rude to my husband and I. Everyone told me that I had the right to walk out and she was being extremely rude, which made me feel sane because sometimes I feel like I'm crazy with my reactions to very obvious instances of disrespect that the whole family seems to brush off. Anyway, so after the incident, I talked to my husband and told him that I will not tolerate disrespect from H, and what she did was extremely out of line. I also told him that it's extremely upsetting when she disrespects him, and while I understand his stance on being the bigger person, a line needs to be drawn with her. He agreed and said he will talk to her. Next day they had a day planned with the boyfriend, which I thankfully apologized from before this whole thing happened. My husband's brother Jay called him before the outing, and we all discussed what happened. Jay tried to explain how H doesn't have bad intentions, etc. And I told him that I never said H was malicious. I just think as adults, when someone is disrespectful, the bare minimum is to acknowledge and apologize. After a long back and forth, They agreed that Jay will ask H to have a conversation about what happened with Jay present before going to their thing, and I told them I don't think I should be part of this conversation since I'm not part of the family, and I personally wouldn't want to initiate the conversation with her. When I saw my husband after, he told me the conversation went very well and that she was super receptive and empathetic. She apologized to my husband and she told him she was very worried that I judged her negatively based on this incident. My husband told her that you can talk to her about it. She is a very understanding and empathetic person and will hear you out. I was happy for my husband, but very skeptical. Honestly speaking, and knowing how narcissists think, she only apologized to my husband and acted understanding because she didn't want me to judge her further. Anyways, I told my husband, of course she can talk to me anytime. I waited and waited, and she never reached out, Loel. My husband hinted at me initiating, and I freaked out on him, telling him in what world does it make sense for me to initiate this talk? If she has a pride problem, then it's her problem. Fast forward to yesterday, which was her last day, after a long day at work where I finished at 7:30 p.m. My husband tells me they're having a family dinner at their parents' at 8 p.m. to say goodbye to H. I told him that I don't have the mental capacity for that right now, especially knowing that there might be and back and forth with H, and especially not knowing how she plans to bring it up or decides to deal with it, considering her pride issue. I texted in the family group that I apologized for not being able to make it today and wished H safe travels. My husband goes without me, and apparently H brings up the fact that I didn't come, and they all have a talk about it. As I suspected, H is now saying that she doesn't think she was rude to me at all, and she has no reason to apologize to me. My husband tells her that she was, in fact, rude, and she, in fact, needs to apologize. H suddenly twists the narrative and talks about how, since the day she met me, she has been trying to build a relationship with me, but I don't reciprocate. No idea what she's talking about here, since I'm the one who pushes my husband to give her attention, and I'm the one who pushed that. Instead of getting her generic flowers for her birthday this year, we should pitch in and get her a personal antique item that she would enjoy. Besides, this argument has nothing to do with the main issue. Anyways, long story short, I know I've been petty with not initiating and now going to the dinner, but I think it's a matter of principle. Also, I told my husband that if she doesn't want to reach out and talk, then that's something she's deciding, and I won't try and solve this issue for her. Am I the wrong